racers, horses that were pacers. I had one you couldn't even get out of first gear. Loved them from the start, but nothing ever touched my heart like that yearly right Ropin Jersey steer. Now, when I was about 12, 13, my granddaddy, he brought home a little Jersey bull, about 6 months old. Well, he didn't want a bull. I like jerseys. I thought maybe he was going to start a herd of jerseys because they give some good milk. But he went out there and he neutered that steer. Now, if you don't know what neutered is, ask somebody that's close to you, somebody, maybe a family member that can explain things like that to you. You could ask my Aunt May. Now, my Aunt May, she was married to a fellow named Herschel. And old Herschel, he was quite a gadabout, quite a runaround. He liked the ladies, he liked to drink. And he came home one time too many after he'd been out gallivanting around with the ladies. And came in all drunked up. And now, he passed out on his bed. Now, Aunt May, she was she made quilts, she was a quilter. And she made quilts and sold them summertime to the tourists that come down through the area. So she got her quilting shears. They go a long pair of scissors like. And she went in there to where Uncle Herschel was laying and snipped. He was neutered. So she laid him up there on his pillow so he could see him when he woke up. She had them shears framed, put in a little box and framed all up nice and everything in a case with a little glass on it and hung it up there in her living room so Uncle Herschel could see it quite often. It was a funny thing, but a lot of the ladies around that had husbands that was like to gallivant with other ladies, they came to a screeching halt on that. But Uncle Herschel, it was about 3 years later, he up and died. And she married another fellow named Tom. But Tom, I never noted him to ever tomcat around and do anything. He stayed right close to Aunt May. But anyways, I digress here. I took to that little Jersey steer right off the bat. We, just became a pet real quick like. And I was a little scrawny fellow. I was the run of our litter, just a little bitty 13, 12, 13. I wasn't no bigger than a minute. So I got to where I could sit on that yearling calf there and ride him around. He'd just go around the field, he'd sit on his back. One day I was out there in the tack room in the barn and I dug up an old English saddle that Grandpa he picked up at a sale somewhere. And it ain't much to them English saddles, they're just little things. So I rode that little steer, that little Jersey steer, quite a bit. And I had the saddle on him, and I didn't use a bridle, I just put a halter on him. And I didn't even need to rein him because all I had to do was just nudge with one knee or the other, and then he'd go right where I wanted him to. And then I took the roping off of him. And I was never a good roper. My dad used to try to teach me to rope, and I just couldn't get the hang of it. I could, if I made a loop big enough, I could stand about 5 feet from a fence post and once in a while catch it. But I got to roping calves around there with that little Jersey steer, and I could catch him good because he'd just run right up there by them, and he'd say something to them, I suppose, because they'd kind of like to stop. And I'd throw my loop on them, and I could catch them. And so come summertime, we went through the winter working like that. Come summertime, late spring, started in on the rodeoing, and I decided one day, I said, because that little Jersey steer was fast, so I was going to just take him up there and maybe put him in the barrel races. And I took him up there, and they didn't want to allow him in it, but I argued and fetched around there for a while. And so they finally let me ride him in the barrel races. And I mean, he whooped up on everything come along in that barrel racing. And so I just thought, well, shoot, why don't I just make a entry fee for the calf roping contest? And they didn't think that little Jersey steer ought to be in there. And they laughed at me because that English saddle said, well, son, you ain't got no place to dally off your rope. And I said, we'll handle that. And so they finally let me do that. And of course, they liked that entry fee. And I got that little Jersey steer all lined out there, and they let that calf go, and we lit out after it. And Jersey steer, he just run up kind of that calf and just grunted a little bit. And I dropped the loop over it, and that over its head, and that Jersey steer, he just kind of grunted a little bit. That calf just kind of flopped over and stuck his legs up there for me to jump down there and tie him up. Well, I won that, and then I thought, well, why don't I do bull riding? And back in them days, you didn't have to be any certain age to ride the bulls. They didn't have classification. We just had rodeos, and you rode. So I signed up for the bull riding, and that little Jersey steer, he went around there, and I guess he talked to the bull I was going to ride. And so, you know, the Jersey steer was up there close to it, and then he kind of wandered away, and I got down around the chute and got all snugged up there and said, let her go. And that bull, he just kind of crow hopped out there a little bit. Just a nice, easy ride. And he was supposed to be a bad one. And I did my time on that. I lost a little bit of points because he wasn't a hard bucker, but I got a lot of points because I did everything just right. So I won that. Well, now, sir, we took going to rodeos around the country. They wouldn't let him in the horse shows. I tried the horse shows, but they would not let that Jersey steer in there. But we went around the country, and I was winning rodeos left and right, making money. I had a buddy that back in them days where I was from, you only had to be 14 to legally drive. Well, at least everybody drove at 14 without a license, but that was the way it was. And my buddy, he'd get that Jersey steer in the back of his pickup, and so we went rodeo to rodeo, doing real good. Well, sir, at about the fall of the year, it was about all done, and I'd made a few dollars, and I'd gave my buddy money for using his truck, and the rest of it I just gave to Grandpa. It was his steer, and I lived with him, and you know, they use household money and things to pay bills, electric bill and stuff like that. And so I went up. It was fall of the year. It was starting to just chill off, and I went up to the city to visit with my dad. He lived up there, and so I visited with him spent a week with him, and I came back home and went in. Got in there. It was just dinner time, and Grandpa, he was sitting there eating a big old piece of meat. I said, "That's what you got there, Grandpa?" And he said, "Well," he said, "son," he said, "I'm eating steak." I said, "Oh, did some butchering?" He said, "Yep." I said, "Well, what did you butcher up?" And he said, "Well, it was time for that little Jersey steer." I said, "Grandpa, that was my riding roping Jersey steer." He said, "No, son," he said, "that was my Jersey steer, if you recollect." And he said, "When I made a steer out of him, he wasn't good for anything else but to raise up and eat." I said, "Well, he was good for rodeoing, Grandpa." He said, "Well, yeah, but that's really not what Jersey steer's for, is it?" Oh, I was so upset. I said, "Really? That's my Jersey steer?" He said, "It's my Jersey steer." I said, "Well, that's that little riding roping Jersey steer?" And he said, "Yep." And I cried. Oh, I bawled. I just bawled like a little baby. I just bawled and bawled and bawled. I kind of got all unjittered down on my bawling. And Grandpa, he said, just hike on up here to the table. And he chunked me a steak off of a platter there and put it over on a plate for me. And he said, "May as well enjoy that Jersey steer some more." Oh, I bawled again some more. I said, I'll never be able to eat that Jersey steer. And I sat there for a while, and it smelled good. And Grandma had some mashed potatoes and mushroom gravy there with it. So I sat there for a little bit. I want to tell you right now, That little Jersey steer was some of the best tasting steak that I ever ate in my life. Gotta be with you till we